Let's welcome to the show an old friend of mine, the one and only brutal Bob Evans. Bob, how are you, my friend?
Michael, how are you, my friend? Great to reconnect with you. It's been quite a while, my friend.
Yeah, it is, but I don't wrestle anymore. I don't really have a wrestling outlet. And every time I get to do one of these, I get to either meet a new friend or catch up with an old one. So it's like my wrestling therapy. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember you. You were a hell of a talent, a hell of a worker, and I feel like you never got your true just desserts. I felt like you really deserve a lot more in this industry than you got. You did a lot of stuff though, and I'm sure you're grateful for it. But I would have liked to see you go a little further with it. I know Mr. Our dear friend and mentor Jim Cornette did a lot for us, both of us, and I know he was always a huge fan of yours, and he shouted you out a couple weeks ago on his show, actually. So because he was talking about you and Mr. Ford, as they say, who I think you'll
Nice.
be linked with for the rest of your life, whether you want to be or not. So
That's for sure. It's a good dude to be linked with. You know what I mean?
I think you guys were like the original Kevin Steen and El Generico, destined to do this thing forever.
Yes, but you know what? We used to have the Kevin Steen El Generico matches back in the day, and we'd
Mm-hmm.
come in the back and the veterans would hate it. And now that's all you see these days is that style of matches. That you know what I mean? Like that back in the day, if you did those crazy moves and worked really hard, you didn't get the props you do now. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. It absolutely does. I think, and I mean, trust me, I was one of those guys too. Even though you guys were a little bit more daring than I was, I was accused of always doing too much and not having any psychology in my matches and things like that. And then you go back and you look at them and you go, man, compared to what they're doing now, we were standing still, and we were, it looks like Bruno Martino and Stanton Age compared to these guys, what these guys are doing now, and
Yeah.
it's also a question of, is it one of those things that it's just a lesson from time? Like, is it, it's always going to be, the older guys kind of picking on the younger guys, or the older guys thinking the newer guys just don't know what they're doing, or is it legitimate? I think as I get older, I certainly have my opinions, but I also think that you have to have a soft spot in your heart for the young guys and girls, and realize that they're doing the best they can with what they got, and that's another reason why I'm out trying to teach so much, because man, it's just not. And you and I mentioned it. We were talking briefly off the when we were first hooking up here on the recording, that the old timers would sometimes tell us what not to do, but they often wouldn't tell us what to do and how to do it, and all that good stuff. And I'm trying to take that out of the equation and really kind of you know go out and get on the road and teach people, hey, you can have good matches, you can even hit the big move off the top rope or whatnot, but I really want it to count, and I really want the people to be going crazy when you hit it. So that's kind of where I am with that.
Yeah, for sure. Bob, who broke you in?
I was trained by a guy named Gino Caruso. It's not the Gino Caruso everybody thinks it is. It was another guy going under that name. His first name was Gil, and just a local guy, kind of a journeyman. He trained us for a little while. Then I was trained by a gentleman named Bruiser Costa, who was one of Killer Kowalski's original students. And Bruiser Costa kind of made some bones by he later on became Lobster. He used to wear like foam claws. He did like publicity stunts where he run for president, and he got on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart by doing that years ago. And just a real, like, not a carny like that, like he wasn't stealing people's money, but he was just a wild guy who would try pretty much anything for publicity.
When you're
But
training, anybody trained that I would know with you?
let's see. Well, a couple of years in, I started training with a young guy that you know very well, the late great Steve Bradley, and
Oh yeah.
yep, and then so we trained with Steve a little bit, then we fell out as things happen when you're young and you have people buzzing in your ear. Sometimes it leads you to have dumb heat with people, and then it kind of dissipated. We became friends again, and then Steve was starting to go to those Dory Funk camps, which you're very familiar with,
Right.
and then
Sure.
he would come back and he would teach us the stuff that he learned at the Dory Funk camp. So I kind of consider Steve one of my trainers, even though I helped break him in and help teach him some stuff. He came back and helped take us to the next level later on. So,
What was the hardest part of training for you?
um, just the reality that, well, in the beginning, as you know, there really wasn't as much opportunity as there is now. I mean, there's half a dozen shows within, we're in the Northeast, you and I, so there's half a dozen shows within 50, 60 miles of us, usually on a weekend. You'd have to wait, maybe a month to get another booking if, at times. And that was the toughest thing without really knowing anybody. And even though I was trained by a Kowalski guy, I wasn't in the Kowalski bubble. And he was pretty much the guy who promoted most of the shows in New England. But of course, as things are, Bruiser Costa kind of had heat with Kowalski. They didn't like each other very much at the time. So there really wasn't. So Bruiser actually started running shows. And that's when I started working a semi-regular schedule, like, whatever in the beginning, a couple shows a month, and that was, as you know, a busy schedule back in the day.
Yeah. Just getting those reps in front of live people. It
So
doesn't matter where the ring was. If there was a ring set up, you're gonna find it and you're gonna try and get in it. It just that's the
yeah,
most important part of it. Just getting the reps in.
yeah, that would be. I think the toughest part was getting the work in, and then making progress because you were wrestling a lot of people the same level as you, and we didn't think of
Right.
traveling. Like there was no, oh, I'm going to jump in the car and go to Pennsylvania. Like that really wasn't a thing. We didn't know anybody. It was all phone calls back then. Phone calls, letters, that kind of stuff. It was all reputation. So you'd have to find somebody and call and figure out where they were running. If they needed anybody, they'd probably have you send
Right.
a picture and a videotape at the time.
Right.
All that would take time, you know. So, but somehow we managed to get booked a little bit anyway, and yeah, it was. Those are good times. In my opinion, it's a hell of a lot easier now to get work. It's you know, as you know, but it's also some of the quality of work. Although some of the quality back then, Mike, was kind of rough too. I mean, we had our certain. Wasn't like everybody was an incredible worker, and we like to romanticize the past and say,
Right.
oh my God, nothing but sellouts, and we were all having incredible matches, and the place was going crazy, and it's not. That's not true. I mean, the crowds were probably less than they are now, and it was usually in a VFW hall or a high school gym or kind of like now. So,
Yeah.
yep,
I was lucky that Dennis Coralluzzo would bring in like Doug Gilbert or
right.
Buddy Landell or Brian Christopher or PG-13, guys who I'll see you in the ring, keep your ears open, and we'll have a great time in there and no one gets hurt. Anybody take you under their wing? Anybody like you can say, these guys really taught me how to quote unquote work?
Well, Costa, obviously, it was when you started with him, and when I started 2 years in, I was a guy who basically was just. They taught you how to bump a little bit. They taught you how to take a hip toss and body slam, and maybe a little arm bar or something, and then it was out wrestling.
Right.
And it was but working as far as like putting a match together and telling a story in the ring, that wasn't until later, you know. Um, that wasn't until much later. But I remember seeing, and this is a name from the past that you'll certainly remember, Mike Modest. And I was 6 or 7 years in, as crazy as it sounds, and I was still kind of putting stuff together. But when I saw we were at the old Hamburg Field House with Blaine DeSantis. I'm sure you worked for Blaine back in the
Oh,
day.
sure. Oh yeah.
So that was kind of when Jim Kettner and Blaine DeSantis were kind of using quite a bit of the same crew. So I saw two very good examples of that on two different shows. It was Mike Modest versus Cheetah Master, and you remember Cheetah, I'm sure. We love him.
Oh yeah.
And I just saw Mike Modest dance Cheetah Master through this awesome match on the fly, and I said, "Man, I really want to do that." And then I saw Brian Logan, Big Brian Logan, the one that went down to work for OVW for a while and was one of the Disciples of Sin, managed by Stacy Cornett back in the day. And Brian was a good old boy, and I saw him work with my friend Alex Arion and carry him through a great match. And then it just happened the next month. I worked with Brian, and he carried me through a great match. And I said, man, so that was really kind of those experiences, watching and observing just close up. Because the Mike Modest and Cheetah Master match was a lumberjack match, so we were right out there. So it was one of those where you could really kind of see the magic being done in the ring, and it was awesome. It was such a good experience, and those were really some important turning points in my career where I said, you know what, I can sort of call a match on the fly, but those guys kind of showed me maybe the final number in the combination to really unlock it. So I started getting a lot better with my work and figuring it out at that point. So, and boy, man, those guys were all so good back in the day. Some of them are still kicking around doing some things in the business, but most of them are gone now, retired, or sadly, some passed away. And, we just, those were some really good moments. That was fun. I met Bruno Sammartino on one of those shows too for Blaine DeSantis, which was awesome. So,
What a gentleman Bruno was.
Yep.
I'll tell you a quick story. So
Yeah.
there's an Italian restaurant by my house we used to always go to, and the guy calls my dad and says Bruno Sammartino's coming here for dinner. So we go there, and that's my dad's hero. So
Oh,
it was
awesome.
me, my dad, got to meet Bruno. Fast forward, I'm on an indie show like 5 years later. Bruno's the guest there. So I go over to him. I'm like, sir, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I met you at this restaurant with my dad. It was such a great honor. And then we got done talking. I get ready to leave, and he calls me over. I'm like, why is Bruno Sammartino calling me back over? He goes, come on, come here, come here, come here. I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, make sure you tell your dad I said hello.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just a classy, classy guy, Bruno.
Right. Right. And how many people did he do that to every day? How many people did he make feel special? There were a few people that were like that with me. I know Roddy Piper was probably the one that really was he was I grew up with Hogan and Piper and the War to Settle the Score, and that was what really got me into wrestling. I consider myself very fortunate because I started as a fan then, and then I was started right at, and this isn't necessarily a fun part, but I started right with all the scandals and stuff in '92, and then I got booked
Me
for
too.
TV. Yep, I got booked for TV during the Attitude Era, just like you did, and I got to see a bunch of that stuff happen. And I was going so often, people knew, because plus my name was a restaurant. It still is, so people remembered me quicker, and that was fine. Whatever gets your foot through the door, right? But I went and I just I had some fun matches. I had a lot of good experiences, and then it was a cool time. It still is. It's a really good time now. Don't get me wrong, but you got to see all those changes in changing of the guard, and I guess if you're around long enough, you're going to see that anyway. But yeah, it was Piper was one of the guys when I met him. He was he showed up, and he actually had his son was actually wrestling that day against one of our local guys, Ryan Drew, who was an excellent wrestler and was an amateur wrestler too. So they wanted to put him in with an amateur guy who could kind of do that style, because Roddy's son was still kind of learning, and but if they had to fall back into amateur style, they could. And then the kid, he carried the kid to a great match, and Piper was very grateful and took pictures with everyone, and just made everybody feel special. And I pulled him aside, and I was almost in tears. I said, you're one of the guys that got me into wrestling, and I know where I feel like you've been so nice to everybody. I feel like we're friends, but I know we just met. And he's like, no, that's not how I work. He says, I met you. You're my friend. I love you. That's the end of the story. And then
Nice.
I remember I put that on Twitter, and then he tagged it, and put I love you at the bottom, and I still have it. And then like 6 months later, he passed away, and we were in that same building for one of our big shows, and everybody was so devastated because he made such a positive impression on us just that one time.
Right.
And we had one of the best shows we've ever had because we dedicated it to him. It was crazy how, and it just taught me how one person can make an impact in a room just for a couple of hours.
Right.
So,
I did a lot of TV in 93, 94, 95, a little bit in 98, 99, but talk to me about your TV experiences.
yeah, you did a lot more than I did. I only had a few matches on TV. I wrestled Adam Bomb, Brian Clark, who was great. Later on, this is years later, probably 20 years later, I just buy a bunch of magazines from somebody, and I'm just gonna, flip them on eBay and keep some for myself. And I'm looking through this Japanese World Tour, WWF Japanese World Tour program, and there's Mr. Clark, Mr. Atom Bomb tearing apart some kid's face, and that was me. So
Nice.
I guess that's the only time I'll probably get to Japan. But but I kept it. That one I didn't sell. I kept that one. And then yeah, did was booked as an extra. You know how it is. Sometimes you work, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're a cop, sometimes you're this, sometimes you're that. Uh had a match with Gangrel, had a match with Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn. I am proud to say that I had my first match, his first match, Aaron Stevens / Damian Sandow / Aaron Stevens again. Uh, I had his first match in WWF, and he's always been very sweet and kind when he talks about it and says I took good care of him that day. But no, TV was always a good experience. Everybody was pretty cool. I noticed that the higher you went on the card, usually the nicer you were for the most part. The underneath guys were kind of the jealous and kind of dickish ones, so to speak. Pardon my language. But it was, and obviously when we were extras, it was, it was kind of we were all in the same boat, But I had it down. I could figure out when I was working, when I wasn't. Um, there were a lot of times when I was booked in Providence where I was 15 minutes away. So once the bell went SmackDown, I just went home, and I was home before I was home, get in there and either have something or not have something, and then you're home by 8:30. So it wasn't bad. But no, it was generally positive experiences. And, there's still people that I have relationships with because I've seen them on the indies, or I've seen them, do great things, the Hardys have always been super kind to me. I saw them at Comic-Con here, and they met my son, and they were very complimentary. Oh, he's a great guy and great wrestler, and he's awesome. He's a good friend of ours, very supportive through all the years. Like, they kind of went out of their way to make me seem like a big deal, So it was very cool. But no, yeah, I always had a good experience. I remember a negative experience I had at TV, and I was originally going to be the doctor that pulled the hand out of when Mae Young gave birth to the hand. That was going to be me. I was
Right.
going to be the doctor. But I think I may have subconsciously boo-boo faced myself out of that. So I didn't get a chance to be the famous doctor who pulled it. I think they just ended up using one of the production guys. But yeah, that could have been me. So that was my brush with big time fame.
Wow. I would have Boo Boo Face. I would have begged to get that. Are you kidding?
When you get a little older, you're not afraid of looking so bad. Back in the day, you think
Yeah.
you think you're one match away from them signing you.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Sure.
So you're, and then, so you don't want to do anything that kind of stereotypes you. And back then, that was more of a thing. The
Yeah, you're right.
stereotyping I think one of the guys that was one of the first guys to break out was our friend Scotty Too Hottie, Scott Garland.
Right.
I think he
Yeah.
was one of the guys who he did a lot of jobs on TV, and then
Yeah.
he ended up just kind of out working, out hustling, always being there, always being responsible, getting better every time they saw him. And then when an opportunity hit, he took advantage of it, and he's still doing it. Now he's wrestling with his son. It's awesome. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So he was one of the guys that broke in the same place I did. He used to drive, him and a kid named Steve Ramsey used to drive 3 hours to practice twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, every week for months. So that's why when he gives Scotty Too Hotty some excuses, he probably doesn't listen to him.
How'd you get your Ring of Honor deal?
I had gotten a couple of pre-show matches when Gabe Sapolsky was the booker, and Gabe always had a soft spot in his heart for me because he's from Boston, and he was those guys who go to indie shows every once in a while, and I was on the first indie show that he ever saw. So he always had so sometimes it's not even who you know, it's who knows you.
Right.
And but he had me on a couple of pre-show matches. I worked with some of his guys. And first guy I ever wrestled at Ring of Honor was Kyle Durden, who's known now as Kyle Davis, who's the announcer for NWA now. And then Rhett Titus and Alex Payne and a few other people. And, but really, I was out of shape. I was just kind of doing it to do it, and didn't really take it seriously. But then Kevin Kelly, our good friend, he was going to come on to help Jim Cornette when he started working in Ring of Honor. And Kevin said, hey, they're going to do a tryout camp. You should see if you can be here. So I worked really hard. I had already trimmed down a little bit, but I trimmed down even more. And I so I was about 40 pounds lighter than when they had last seen me. And then I just brought my A game. I just did everything I could. I got one of the guys kicked me in the face by accident. So I had blood over my mouth, and I'm spitting blood into the mat, and I'm going, I just want an effing job here. I just want to, it was really very emotional. I wanted to show him how passionate I was about trying to be here. And I got the job. It wasn't the job I thought I'd get, because they wanted me to manage Mike Bennett, who was one of my students for real. And they wanted me to manage him in storyline too. So I did that for a while, for about 1.5 years. And then Mike started dating Maria Kanellis, and she looks a lot better than I do on his arm. So that kind of pushed me off to the side. They didn't push me out. It just made sense. And, so I started doing, stuff on my own, and, just kind of kicked around, did some stuff, was still with Mike Bennett, but then kept going on, and then started teaming with Cheeseburger as a babyface. We did a thing, then I turned on him. And then there was a young guy who came out of the Monster Factory named Tim Hughes. And Tim ended up being not only a good friend, one of my best friends, but my longest tag team partner. We've had over 300 matches together in a team called Tough Guy Inc. And that was the beginnings of that. And yeah, we had, I was a guy who was kind of not even supposed to be in Ring of Honor, and I was there for 8.5 years. So that's a pretty good accomplishment, sticking it out for that long. And and I got to see so many good wrestlers. And one of the things I learned too, Mike, is that I thought I was a damn good wrestler, and I am, but I'm not one of the best. So, and if there's any baseball fans out there listening, I ended up being like the 25th man on the roster, which is fine, or the 26th man now, I guess. But it's, and that was fine. I was happy being that guy, and realized that if I wanted to get more long-term oomph out of my wrestling career, I'd have to do more coaching. So, and that's kind of where I started helping out at their tryout camps and seminars. And I met a bunch of people coming in from all over the country. And that's kind of where the next level of my career came, where they said, hey, do you want to come teach at our school? Do you want to, in Maryland or Colorado or California or Texas or wherever they were from? And it ended up branching out where I made it into like this whole business of doing seminars and out there coaching, and I'm still doing it, So it's, Ring of Honor. I thought I was going to go in there as a wrestler, and I did have some matches, and I had a lot of fun matches, and with some really, really super talented people. But really, what it was a door that opened me into, the whole like national coaching thing. So that's really
Right.
where it's been very, very fruitful for me.
Anybody at the camp get a job that I would know? Anyone try out?
Yeah, so many. Let's see. Mike Bennett for one, his tag team partner Matt Taven,
Hmm.
Michael Elgin. Let's see who else. Well, Cheeseburger did, because Cheeseburger was helping out at the school, but then he really flourished at those camps because he would come and do reps with everybody. Let's see, Dalton Castle,
Hmm.
the boys, the guys who were Dalton Castle's guys, the twins, the Tate twins, uh, Tommaso Ciampa, Big Brian Malonis, my goodness, Hanson from War Raiders, Ivar,
Right, right, yeah.
Dijak, Leo Rush,
Wow.
MJF was there, but we didn't sign him. Moose, I was there when Matt Riddle had his first ever reps in a ring. I was there for that. Uh, Cedric Alexander. Yeah, I mean, very many. I'm missing a bunch. TK Orion, Vincent from Vincent and Bill, the Vinny Marcellia. Um, and then there were probably 50 or 75 people that got work out of it, either steady work or extra work or TV work out of it too. So Ian Riccaboni, who's the announcer for Ring of Honor, he was at those trial camps. I helped hook him up with that, and so yeah, plenty. And I'm missing a bunch. I'm just not but pretty much like a lot of people that went through there, definitely were part of that system. So yeah, it was one of those where you paid your money and you did 2 days. But the cool thing about those trial camps were the Briscoes were almost always there. Jay Lethal was almost always there. Christopher Daniels, um, a lot of times, Delirious was obviously there. He was the head trainer at the school. And then there'd be like two or three guests like Adam Cole or Charlie Haas or Elgin or one of those people who really, just could take your game to another level. So even if you didn't make it, you got a lot closer by, doing your thing and getting it. So it was either, for some people, it was a tryout camp, and for some people, it was a seminar, and for some people, it was
Right.
both, obviously. So, but no, I stand behind those camps 1,000,000%. They were very, very fruitful, and they were and there was a cost to them. I think they cost $300 for 2 days, but to me, it was a bargain. It really was. It's for what you got out of it. If you put in, and again, you get out what you put in. So
Right.
if you put something into it, you got out of it. If you were expecting to walk in and just steal somebody's job, that didn't happen very often. Even if you did super, super well, it just started you on the process. So, but yeah, those were really good, really, really good.
As a wrestler, as a trainer, as a promoter, you ever find a guy and you say, this guy is like the next guy, and for some reason, whatever reason, just didn't happen? Anybody you ever pegged to be like a breakout star in Ring of Honor, and it just didn't happen for him?
I think the example that everybody would point to is TK Orion, who I mentioned earlier, who was a college athlete, played baseball for Holy Cross in Massachusetts. Very high level baseball catcher, was being recruited, for possible draft consideration, things like that. Got really injured, hurt himself, so he couldn't play baseball anymore. But his baseball coach in high school was a wrestler named Sweet Scott Ashworth, and so TK started wrestling, and right away you could tell he was a serious athlete. He was very, very talented guy. Picked up the business really fast, and we thought he was going to be the next guy. Unfortunately, he wrestled and Ring of Honor. He wrestled a guy named Roosh, who's in AEW now, and suffered a really, really bad concussion. And I don't know every specific about that, but I just know that maybe it was Roosh possibly taking liberties with him, And I've heard that about him. I mean, I've heard that speculation in the past. So, but it gave him a really, really bad concussion that just basically forced him out of wrestling, unfortunately, or changed this whole perspective on wrestling and really set him back. So TK's been kind of helping out at our school now. He's come back after 5 years, and he's still a crazy talented guy. He's older now. I don't know what his ambition is now, but I think he would have been in position to be very, very high on the card and definitely championship consideration. I think he had a lot of the stuff required to be a top guy. He was a good sized guy, tall, 6'2", 230, 240, good looking guy, had a nice, good speaking voice, could cut a promo, could work babyface, could work heel, could work traditional. He could get in there with you. He could get in there with me. He could get in there with a high flyer from a 22-year-old kid under a mask. He could pretty much work with anybody. And so that was unfortunate. That was probably the guy. And then as far as like people that slipped through our fingers, we had MJF at a couple Ring of Honor camps and didn't sign him. And then we had Matt Riddle right in front of us and we didn't sign him. And I can't say that I saw greatness in either one of them right away, because I'd be lying if I did. I know some people, but I know quite a few people did. A lot of people really liked Max right away in Ring of Honor. They were very, very, very complimentary of him. And because they had seen, I know Kevin Kelly was very high on him because he had seen the promo and Max could talk right away. So it was, that was the issue there. But I guess the work wasn't there yet or whatnot. They just didn't, he wasn't quite there yet. But, and then Matt Riddle just had no experience. So, and he was just this kind of the same guy he is now, kind of a goofy, fly by the seat of your pants, cavalier guy. And, is he going to shape out? Is he going to shape up? Or is he going to, work out more of that? Is he going to be, can he translate all his wrestling to all his amateur wrestling to pro wrestling?
Talk to me about what you're doing today. What you and Kevin Kelly are doing, your website, your training, everything you're doing today.
Well, today I'm talking to my handsome friend with no hair, and getting to see him again, which is fantastic. But yeah, Kevin and I just started a promotion called The Wrestling, THE Wrestling, Time Honored Excellence. And it's going to be, I know people say this all the time, so it's kind of worn out, but basically going to be kind of like the wrestling you grew up watching, with a lot younger people doing it, not a bunch of old guys like me. I'll be there once in a while, but I'm not going to be stealing the spotlight from the younger guys. And it's just going to be a bunch of people that we've seen around the indies, and we'll be looking for more people around the indies and around the country that can fit into this system. It's going to be 6 or 7 matches. Going to be a nice 6 p.m. bell time. Hopefully we'll get people out by 8:15, the absolute latest. We're gonna run at the Carlisle Fairgrounds building. August 9th is our first event, and it's it's going to be basically just man, like, and we see a lot of complicated shows going on. I'm sure one of the things that you see when you go, even maybe when we were younger, because I know I felt this way sometimes when we were younger guys too. Like, man, this seems so complicated. Why can't this just be 6, 7 matches on a show?
Yeah.
A nice chill day, and we'll get in and get out, and everybody make their payday. Everybody kind of, we'll all go out to dinner. We'll all have a nice day and watch a little TV, go to bed, and go home the next day. Like, I'm older now. I was never a big party guy. I never ran around chasing girls and drinking, all that stuff. I kind of want a nice family style show, a nice family, presentation, and 6, 7 matches, very PG, fun stuff, and just a nice easy night at the matches. And you get in and get out. Hopefully we have a nice big turnout, a lot of community involvement. I know Kevin's already talked to about 3 or 4 different people in the community that are linked in with other organizations, and we're going to do some nonprofit stuff as well. And we're also going to invite any promoters that want to come down and just check out the talent that we have, or just want to come down and if we're doing it right, and come see us do it right, and if we're doing it wrong, come help us do it right. So that's kind of where we are. But yeah, it's and then he and I have been going on the road doing a lot of, like I said, consulting work. We help promotions. I've had pretty good success with getting promotions to double and triple their numbers in a couple of shows if they let me, kind of teach them how to promote a little bit better and clarify their message, figure out who they are, where they are in the wrestling world. And usually once we talk to them and kind of line them up, their houses go up quite a bit. And Kevin helps with the as far as our seminars go. Kevin usually does the promos, presentation, um, that kind of stuff. And I do the in-ring stuff. And then we both kind of tackle the marketing and social media and getting yourself out there and getting more bookings and breaking through all the noise and that kind of stuff. So we try to really be a one-stop shop for just about everything if we can. So we, and we're always looking for talent, always looking to plug people into better places. As like you, like a lot of us, we all have friends in high places now because a lot of the guys we wrestled with and the girls we wrestled with are in good places. So we can always make recommendations and we can always say, hey, you might want to take a look at this kid. They're really making some good positive changes and really doing some good stuff. So, we're always out kind of scouting and helping people and just kind of serving the business. I for a long time, I kept seeing these people just take from the business, and it drove me crazy because this business has given me so much. So all I want to do is give back and help people and really just be a good positive person and not be that old guy who's makes everybody sick to their stomach when you walk into a room. You want to make people happy and you want to be like, oh, good. And, maybe he'll impart some wisdom or he'll just say something that makes me feel good about myself or just, hey, I need some advice on something. And you kind of just give them advice and, that always seems to help people. So
How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
most social media is at Brutal Bob Evans, except for YouTube, which I'm trying to grow a little bit. So if you can go subscribe there, that'd be good. It's real Brutal Bob Evans compared to all those fake Brutal Bob Evanses, I guess, around the country. And then Kevin and I do a podcast now called Bob and Kevin Almost Live, which started from me trying to do Facebook Lives with Kevin and screwing it up every week. So we just went almost live and then we just called it the show. So that's kind of what we're doing. And we try to put that out once a week, sometimes twice a week. And usually it drops on Friday or Saturday, and trying to be more consistent with that with my ADHD lifestyle and busy things going on. But all about that. I don't have to tell you. And but yeah, that's it, man. Just been a great experience, and I love wrestling so much. I love you. I'm so glad we got a chance to hook back up again and talk. And I hope we're not such strangers to each other. I think as we get older, we realize that these are the relationships we treasure. So, I treasure you, I value you, and I'm glad you're doing this. This is great. So,
Thanks, Bob.
yeah,
That
man.
means a lot.